There was a man named Baba. He lived way out in the country. There was this stray dog that kept showing up at his house. His wife said, Baba, you have to put the dog in the truck and take him out to the woods and drop him off. That's where he lives. Baba drove him a mile down the road and dropped him off. When he came back home, the dog was walking up in the driveway, practically begging him back. He did the same thing. It happened again. His wife said, You have to take him away, drive him around in circles, and get him all mixed up. Baba drove him an hour away, crisscrossed country roads he never driven before, and dropped the dog off. 2 hours later, Baba called his wife from the truck and said, Did that dog make it back home? She said, Yes, here he comes walking up. He said, Do me a favor and put him on the phone. I need directions. Dear friends in Jesus Christ, most of us will feel burdened by life at one time or another. Many of life burdens are inevitable and unavoidable. Ill health in ourselves or in those we love will be experienced as a burden. Some of the tasks we find ourselves having to do will often be burdensome. The experience of being burdened is part of our life. Yet, each of us has the capacity to make life more burdensome or less burdensome for others. In Matthew's Gospel, Jesus called out to the people, Come to me, all who are wearied and are carrying heavy burdens, I will give you rest. In today's Gospel, also from Matthew, the source of heavy burdens is identified. Jesus criticizes the Pharisees because they tie up heavy burdens and lay them on people's shoulders without lifting a finger to move them. The teachers of the religion have taken the message of the liberating power of God's love and recast into a series of burdens that those they instruct are forced to carry. The God whom Jesus reveals make life less burdensome. The God whom some of religious leaders in Jesus' day revealed made life more burdensome. Today's gospel reveal is a challenge to religious leaders of every generation. It invites those in position of pastoral leadership to ask, does the way we live and proclaim the gospel reveals the life-giving power of living God, or does it add to the burdens people are already carrying? These revelations have been hugely burdensome for many people. Many feel that the church to which they looked as a supportive presence on their life journey has let them down. The burden of disillusionment this has created for many people cannot be underestimated. This difficult moment is a call to renewal for all of us. For those of us involved in pastoral ministry, the challenge is to learn from the example of St. Paul, the great pastor, that is put before us in today's second reading. He tells the Thessalonians that we loved you so much that we were slaving night and day so as not to be a burden on any of you while we were proclaiming God's good news to you. Paul revealed the gospel to be not as a burden, but as a living power among you who believe it. This is the time for all of us in the church to rediscover the living power of the gospel. The living power of the gospel is the living power of God's kingdom. The church is called to be at the service of God's kingdom. It is to be a sacrament, a living sign of God's kingdom in the world, because the kingdom of God is much more wonderful reality than the church, and yet the church is called to be a sacrament of that kingdom. The church will always need a renewal and reform. The renewal and reform of the church will take different forms at different times in church history. Recent revelation can help us to understand in what concrete and particular ways the Lord is calling for renewal and reform in the church today. The Lord will be asking the new structures be put in place which will make those in position of pastoral leadership much more accountable to the rest of the church.